proposed over a period of time. I propose that the fund be overseen by a board of governors from public and private sector with a rotating membership, clear criteria for joining, and a transparent selection process. This will enable the fund to be nimble as an incentive mechanism. It can add programs as needed as science and technology evolves. In conclusion, sir, for the reasons which I have mentioned, I beg to move this resolution for the constitution of an environmental adaptation and mitigation fund. The key features of the fund, in short, are funding sources to include, first, proceeds from targeted cesses that also create incentives to reduce emission. Second, general budgetary resources which can then be leveraged to creative public finance. Third, external sources and external flows related to global sustainability. The initial fund activities are designed, the use of the fund, in short, one, to activate public sector activity by offering fund to support moving beyond business as usual. Second, activate private innovation through innovative public finance. And third, build the institutional capacity to track outcomes and target incentives more effectively in future. The environmental adaptation and mitigation governance is designed to allow the fund to evolve as a coordinating force over time, which is essential for a fast-changing and wide-ranging policy action. This, sir, is an inescapable necessity to finance the huge cost that individuals and societies will inevitably have to bear, both for adaptation in the near term and mitigation, where outcomes inevitably have a long gestation period. In the absence of an innovative financing mechanism, mere reliance on traditional sources is inadequate and unpredictable. Adaptation activities are necessary to enable an orderly transition to mitigate the adverse effects of climate change facing communities and sectors and enable adaptive response. Mitigation, of course, involves a whole slew of measures affecting different facets of life and enabling gainful economic activity to continue while reducing carbon emission. I would urge the government to accept this resolution in the hope and belief that, based on best international practice and given the enormous repercussions it has on the present and future generation, we need to move away from business as usual and from a traditional approach. Small boutique funds from incremental sources are well behind the compelling necessity curve. We need an integrated approach. I've given some ideas both on the necessity, the sources of financing, the deployment of funds, monitoring outcomes, and the governance structure of the fund. Let us, sir, make a reasonable beginning, and I very much hope and expect that the government would rise to the challenge of our time, a compelling challenge in our face, and constitute an environmental adaptation and mitigation fund for the reasons and objectives which I have outlined for the consideration of this House, both today, sir, and an intervention which I had the privilege to make on an earlier occasion. Thank you, sir.